We got some breaking news from the committee on this topic. Chairman Benny Thompson and Vice Chair Liz Cheney put out the following statement. Quote, the Secret Service has begun producing records to the Select Committee pursuant to the subpoena we issued last week, and our investigators are assessing that information. We have concerns about a system migration that we have been told resulted in the erasure of Secret Service cell phone data. The Secret Service system migration process went forward on January 27, 2021, 3 weeks after the attack on the Capitol, in which the Vice President of the United States, while under the protection of the Secret Service, was steps from a violent mob hunting for him. 4 House committees had already sought these critical records from the Department of Homeland Security before the records were apparently lost. Additionally, the procedure for preserving content prior to this purge appears to have been contrary to federal records retention requirements and may represent a possible violation of the Federal Records Act. The Select Committee is seeking additional Secret Service records as well. Every effort must be made to retrieve the lost data as well. So, I mean, I worked in the White House. Every message you send is copied automatically to the White House records keeping. The laws cannot be different that govern the people who protect the people I worked for, Jonathan Lemire.
No, they should not be. And this is truly hard to fathom. The timeline is so damning for the Secret Service here, where certainly perhaps there was a plan to migrate data from one set of phones to another. That doesn't seem to really be in contest. But what is unclear is how they could have gone through with this. January 5th and 6th were not just any other days. They were arguably some of the most important days in the history of this agency, where it was, as the committee statements points out, not just about the vice president, who was there, his life in danger, with questions about his detail, trying to get him in a motorcade out of the Capitol, Pence refusing to go, but of course, the actions and whereabouts of Donald Trump, who gave the speech at the Ellipse, then is said to have tried to badger Secret Service, maybe even grabbing at one of them to take him to the Capitol, and then he retreats to the White House, and agents, of course, would have been nearby throughout. January 5th and 6th are huge days. That data should have been backed up on a normal day as a matter of course, of standard practice, but especially then. And the request from the committee and from other investigators for the Secret Service to preserve those records came well before, more than a week before, the data wipe commenced. It is simply inexcusable, and certainly people here in Washington, the words cover-up have been thrown around more and more.
Well, if the Secret Service wanted a different word to get thrown around, they could clear it up very quickly. The optics are atrocious. The timeline that Jonathan just mentioned goes like this. December 2020, Secret Service Office of Strategic Planning instructs employees to preserve all records. December 17th, 2020 to January 24th, the testing of migration, including refinement of guidance on how to preserve their records. So there's nothing about the migration, including deletion. January 6th, a Capitol insurrection. 10 days later, Congress tells DHS to ensure the records related to the riot are preserved. January 25th, Secret Service employees again instructed to preserve records and told how to do that. January 27th, migration process begins. 22 days after the deadly insurrection. February 26th, the IG asked for the records, and they've all been purged already. February 26th, it took them about 31 days to purge all of the text messages pertaining to the protection of the president and vice president during the deadliest attack on the United States Capitol in history. Betsy?
The thing that I think is most notable about the statement that the Select Committee just put out regarding this whole total fiasco is the reference at the tail end to the Federal Records Act in fairly technical and lawyerly language, what these committee members often use in statements. Basically, what they're saying is we think someone or some people at the Secret Service might have broken the law. Federal Records Act is a law. You have to comply with it. That's one of the things that people throughout government get told when they start. This stuff isn't optional, and there's not an honor system when it comes to preserving these federal records. The other piece of that statement in the context of that timeline that I think is really important is the fact that they say at the very beginning that the service had started turning over documents in response to their subpoena. Previously, going back several months now, the Secret Service has said that they're cooperating fully with the Select Committee, that they're giving the Select Committee access to as many personnel as they want to talk to, access to all the documents that they want to see. The fact that it took a subpoena for the Secret Service, for this agency to turn over materials the Select Committee didn't previously have, that's the kind of thing that really raises alarm bells on the committee. Of course, it's made them realize that whatever level of cooperation they thought they'd been receiving from this agency, it wasn't to the extent that they wanted it to be once they brought in lawful process. And remember, the Biden White House and the Department of Homeland Security headquarters have very much been on board with supporting broadly the committee's efforts to obtain records from the executive branch outside the White House. So again, the fact that it took a subpoena for the committee even to get this far is something that's only going to fuel their significant concerns and distrust in relation to the Secret Service.
You know, Ben, I believe that the evidence will come out about what they did and didn't do and what they knew and what they said, because I believe what Barry Berke said. This will end up in a criminal prosecution of a vast criminal conspiracy, and they will all be, I believe, testifying before grand juries eventually. So it'll come out. What I do not understand is why an agency with a noble mission is letting its reputation be slaughtered by Donald Trump's presidency. Why allow the reputation of an agency whose chief qualification is the willingness to take a bullet for your protectee or any member of his family or any staff, like people like you and me that travel with the protectee, benefit by being near them? Why allow that agency to look so shady?
It's an astonishing level of potential corruption of a really important government agency, Nicole. And the reality is, this isn't even like White House staff. So this isn't one of these questions where they can say this is executive privilege. This is an agency that is in the Department of Homeland Security. It's an executive branch agency that has obligations to Congress. It has obligations to people other than Donald Trump. And so I think they're going to have to pull the thread on this for a very long time to get at how did this happen? How do you get to a place where a security agency that has got a duty to the public, not just to the President of the United States and the person of Donald Trump, was so flagrantly acting against the interest of transparency and against the interest of protocol, which is what has to govern the Secret Service. And they're going to have to answer subpoenas. They're going to have to show up before Congress. They're not going to be able to hide behind phony claims of executive privilege. And we saw them try to smear Cassidy Hutchinson kind of in background comments and not showing up under oath to testify. So the people who are overseeing the Secret Service out of the Trump White House, I think this is one where even after the January 6th committee has wound up its work, there's going to be continued investigation into how something like this could have possibly happened around one of the biggest security events in the history of this country that directly implicated the Secret Service, where they were right in the middle of it, right? And I'm not here to impugn individual Secret Service officers. I'm sure a lot of those people were doing their jobs under very hard circumstances in a very difficult day. But clearly something went wrong in the chain of command of an agency that, again, is not White House staff. These are people that work for the American taxpayer up through the Department of Homeland Security and are accountable to the Congress that funds them. And so I hope that they continue not just under the auspices of the January 6th investigation, but generally get to the bottom of, how could this level of either incompetence or corruption take root in the United States Secret Service?